Hi, folks. We're clearly into 2025 and de-dollarization isn't stopping, it's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are clearly scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependency on the US dollar and establish themselves as their own independent superpowers. What's their secret weapon? Gold. In fact, China is resumed buying gold. And you know what's even more telling? They've underreported the buy. Why is that? Well, it's because they recognize gold's global value and its ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, reliable, and it's also immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries want to be prepared. They just don't want it to be revealed. But it isn't about other nations. Ultimately, it's about you. In a world of shifting economic power, gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty. Noble Gold Investments can help you secure your financial future with gold. Please visit noblegoldinvestments.com today to learn more. And with a new qualified account, receive 10 1-ounce silver American Eagle coins. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Please remember, past performance does not guarantee future results, and there's no guarantee of investments of any kind. Hello, and welcome to the podcast. We have with us a brand new first-time guest, which we're very excited to have, Steve Previch, which is the CEO of FirePoint Energy. And he's going to be discussing some very important discussions about the new quantum energy, how it works, different facets of it, and including cold fusion and many, many other things, financial as well. So he's going to tie all that in for us very, very nicely. And it's a very important and timely topic with where we're headed in the wealth transfer. So if you are new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share so that others can gain in the knowledge you've been afforded. And as we always do with first-time guests, we will read his bio summarily. Steve Previch is a senior executive with well over 20 years at Wall Street in the security sector. He has driven multi-million-dollar mergers and acquisitions, thereby enhancing operational performance for domestic international companies. As CEO of New Fire Energy Inc., Steve currently leads a private equity fund in order to support innovative technologies, most notably low energy nuclear reactors, or LENR, which we'll talk about later. His strategic collaborations alongside cutting-edge energy companies, physics professors, as well as AI tech experts have helped to propel groundbreaking research within sustainable energy. Known for his interactive and decisive management style, Steve empowers his teams to achieve bold business objectives with drive measurable innovation. And with that, Steve, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, John, for inviting me on your podcast. I'm excited to always get the word out there about the cutting edge energy technologies that we support.
Absolutely. And we were, as you know, John G., one of our team members, highly recommended you, and I'm glad that he did. And I'm glad I took the initiative to call you. And we've had several vetting conversations that I think have been fruitful each time. And I think we've come to a complementary place in our discovery through the movement. So you're bringing a lot of value, Steve, to our channel that I don't think we've seen in at least many, many other good quality channels. And so we really appreciate that. So I'm going to queue up your website in a moment, but since you're a first-time guest to our podcast, can you, in your own words, other than the bio, kindly give our audience sort of a brief overview of your background, qualifications, and ultimately why you chose to be in this new, exciting, untapped market?
Sure. Yeah, I've been around for a while. I actually started in the securities industry in 1988. So it puts me up there. And, right after the movie Wall Street, I got excited and jumped into it and said, hey, follow the money. And spent approximately 20 years, on Wall Street or Wall Street firms, and had decided that that was where I needed to be. Then I exited during the big fallout in 2008, 2009 of the stock market crash. A lot of us got hit. We'd never felt that the knife would, cut through the welfare of what our biggest investments, real estate and banks. And we found a lot of us decided to, go elsewhere. And I did. I stuck around for a while, got into mergers and acquisitions with other companies and felt comfortable. Always was with emerging technologies during my time on Wall Street, cutting edge technologies. Obviously I was around during the internet when it first came out with Windows, which was amazing. Put that little bar in the corner and next thing you know, the whole world explodes. And then at that point, near field solutions, 3D printing, all those wonderful things. But at some point, we needed to make a journey into a different technology. And that, of course, was low energy nuclear reaction. Some call it 0 point energy, catalyzed fusion, what may be, over unity, excess energy. And that's been around for about 30 to 40 years. So I had just jumped into that because I got excited the first day I heard that we had a solid state performance, and stayed in that for about three years now, but have been studying it for well over a decade, and very interested and intrigued with it because, it is a resolution for a lot of the issues that we deal with in, our world, humanity today, energy. So that's where I started, and that's where I'm at today. And I'm excited to keep moving forward in this cutting edge energy field with all the other great technologies that are just growing exponentially.
Absolutely. And I think your pedigree of experience will serve you well for this time in history going forward, to your point. So the next question is sort of, I guess, Steve, a microcosm or of micro questions, if you like. What exactly is quantum energy? Where does it come from? And how is this going to change the way as we as humans generate and power our everyday lives?
Well, quantum energy, as you say it, or energy from the vacuum,
Mhm.
depending on how you approach it, and each company does approach it differently in their explanations. Quantum power, quantum field, quantum electronic extraction, harnessing energy, I mean, normally locked up in nuclear processes, but low energy nuclear reactions, or 0 point energy, or energy from the 0 point field. Scientists have been exploring this concept for decades, all the way back to Fleischmann and Pons from the 80s. We're finally seeing them move from lab to commercialization over the next year to 2 years, like a company, ENG Energy, that I've posted many times. Back to leading physicists that I've discussed this with, and, I've actually seen in labs the solid state performance. And, it is virtually limitless energy. And I'm excited to say that I've spent the time internationally going to the ICCF conferences, condensed matter conferences, with hundreds of physicists, and dealing and being in these labs and seeing the from the experience of watching it happen. And it's going to impact all of us, our everyday lives. And we're excited to see that, that being one of the uh, top technologies that is moving forward. I call it the trifecta of technologies. Imbued AGI into humanoids, quantum supremacy, and of course, clean, limitless, abundant energy. All seem to be culminating, moving forward at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you a question about AI and robotics in a second, but that'll be a little bit later on in the questioning here. So President Trump has talked a lot about this, the World's Fair that's going to be coming at the end of May, as you know. I think the first time they've had one since, I think, 63 under Kennedy. Do you think these technologies will be featured at the World's Fair in May? And how soon do you anticipate people will actually be able to gain access to these technologies once they are exposed to the public?
Okay, well, in this technology, we have a couple of companies that we have worked with. One we don't work with, but is expected to go full distribution, manufacturing and distribution this year. So I think we'll see the first products come out this year. There have been tests done, demonstrations, which are very exciting. And these demonstrations have shown with professionalism the ability to have limitless, clean, no nuke in it, no radiation, energy that it will facilitate. I mean, we're talking about products all the way from a phone to your home to industrial, and the scaling part of it is where it's been. I mean, scaling up from it's like going down into a mining claim and you find a vein of gold, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, we found the mother lode. This is great. This is it. Well, that wasn't solid state. Obviously, it's taken 20 to 30 years for us to reach this point, or to say for the scientists, physicists. And knowing that they're at solid state performance with some of these companies that we work with, we know that we're on the cusp. We're at this juncture, critical joining point where the old school energies are going to see this come out, and they're obviously not going to be happy about it, because there is a huge margin in Wall Street when you're dealing with energy, especially when you can bring it down to pennies on the dollar in comparison. So I see it proliferating very quickly. I mean, exponentially. You cannot not afford to adapt this type of energy. I mean, it just makes sense to replace everything with it. And the decentralization is the biggest part. Decentralizing energy is key. Right now, we see a lot of the electrical grids. We see a lot of what's happening currently in war, for instance. Or you want to have your farm out in the middle of nowhere, and you want to bring energy out to it. Well, obviously, that's a big key. The infrastructure, the structural changes that'll occur when you have decentralized energy is freedom. And that freedom is what everybody wants. And democratizing it, bringing it down to a cost effective basis where you can take that discretionary money and use it for other things. And as we move forward, everything evolves. But this is sort of the core foundation of decentralized, democratizing energy and bringing, that clean abundance, limitless energy to the world. And with all the cutting edge energy technologies, or cutting edge technologies for that matter, it really does prove that even though we don't think it's going to happen because of all the critics, like there was with AI, as we know, Elon was a critic in 2015, 16 of OpenAI. I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to do autonomous vehicles. Now he's coming back chasing, himself to try to, get ahead of OpenAI. So
Mm,
we realize technology changes faster than we do now, and we're trying to, just understand it, trying to conceptualize it. So to answer your question, cutting edge energy technology in the LNR, they say catalyzed fusion space is accelerating, and we do see a lot of money coming into these companies right now.
great. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Steve, I'm going to share the screen with you as we talked about. This is from your website here on your different Substacks. And this is, you gave me a Substack that you share with me. And as I looked at it in order to formulate questions for today's podcast, one of the key articles that you covered that was of particular interest, not only to me, but I think the lion's share of our audience. And the chief concern, Steve, is being with the aggressive move towards AI and how it will impact virtually every industry on the planet. How do humans adjust to this new movement in terms of job creation, career longevity, and will they, in fact, have to compete soon with robots? Is this too linear in the thinking, or is there actual cause for concern in terms of the human-related workforce?
Yeah, I see what you have up there. Just taking a look at the picture. Okay, you're scrolling down. I mean, it's going to impact our everyday lives. I mean, government, homes, military operations, they're all being backed by, huge institutional investors.
Right.
One of the biggest out there today is Sam Altman with OpenAI. Elon Musk with Grosk. We've just seen them leveling up their LLMs just in the last couple of days, building supercomputers in order to achieve artificial superior intelligence. That's where energy will be needed. But we know that Elon's currently integrating, AI into every aspect of our lives as well. We see that even with the cars, government, military. The initiative right now, what is it? The Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh,
It's all about efficiency. He's whispering in Trump's ear saying all these things are about to occur and that if you don't jump on it, you're going to be left behind. So he's recruiting, ironically, tech savvy, talented recruiters, you know, places like Palantir, largest military contractors for modernizing our military with AI. So reducing federal spending, cutting through bureaucracy, next implement AI into all government branches. I mean, even eliminating government branches with AI. So we might not see the White House in about 5 or 6 years at the speed that they're moving. And, but the goal is obviously to eventually replace old, outdated, structures, government structures with efficient AI-powered systems. And I think that's the big move that we're seeing now. Big tax breaks from the wealthiest, major institutional investors like BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, State Street. I mean, they're getting tax breaks because the investors are in the corporations that they're invested into and hold significant stakes, by the way, in Palantir. So we can see the government and military, maybe working together there. Don't quote me on it. But I mean, the proposed cuts will further accelerate these developments. I mean, they're definitely on track for a future where, governments, military, business operations, they converge into this AI driven ecosystem. but it's vital that we all keep pace. We all be affected. We all want it to trickle down to us faster, so we can all be participate in it. We all want our humanoid that can do everything. So, that obviously is a big move for the world. And we do have to, I think, go a little slower, try to bridge everybody over with us. But the big techno guys, AI is a big deal to them because they're competing with China and other countries. And they know that if they don't keep up, once you get to AGI, it's just a matter of months that you'll be at ASI. I'm not saying we're not at AGI already. Some people are saying we are. And then how fast will we go? So Elon Musk, I'm sure is, motivating Donald Trump to say, look, everything's changing. If we don't change with it, if we don't streamline the government, if we don't take these processes and integrate them into our government, our military, which I just gave you the connections right there, then, we're going to be left behind. Would like us to go a little slower. I would like to have everybody bridge over, comfortably. But I think the tech guys, technocrats, or they call them technobrats, would like to, get this done sooner than later. And, I've got a little bit of an opinion on that, but I'll just leave that to the side. But at the same time, it's coming at us, whether we all dislike it or not, or we all are inadvertently thinking somewhere else and it's not really where we should be because there is a bigger elephant in the room. And, that of course is, AI, AGI, which I believe we're at, and then ASI, because it will affect every single aspect of our lives. And, just to wrap that up, if we can't wait around, we have people out there, countries that are already, leaping above us and we're leaping above them and everybody, it's going to become liquid. Everybody's going to have it at some point. But in the
Mhm.
interim, there is going to be a change. It's going to be the biggest money movement ever in history. And, we'll discuss that some other time, but there is going to be a major reset here soon,
Mhm.
on the financial side. But anyways, so
Well, we talk about that a lot, and I have a question for that towards the end, so we'll cover that. So, Steve, just to help people that might, everybody's at a different level of understanding and proficiency, especially when it comes to areas of technology. So, two sub questions within the main question I asked you is: can you talk
Sure.
about what AGI and SI mean, and in layman's terms for people? And again, how do we as humans um, use this technology without it edging us out and leaving us to the side?
Uh, well, we need to step up, and it's difficult for a lot of us, and that's what I had spoken about. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
difficult for the elderly. It's going to be difficult for a lot of people, next generation. And not that they're the elderly or whoever is, but we have to be able to adapt some way into, if we still want to be in the workforce, into AI. It's a must because it will, solve most of our problems, whether or not it's, protein folding, CRISPR's Cas9 on the bio side, or whether it's not building your home within a matter of 3 weeks with 3 AI imbued humanoids. Was it a year ago? They said, oh, well, it's not going to be able to, do plumbing. It's going to be a long time before that. Well, they showed a video the other day of, of a automation going underneath the house and doing the plumbing. So it's coming at us at full speed. How we adopt is we try to understand it best as possible. We try to hope that the wealthiest people out there or wealthiest institutions do realize that we need to spread that information as fast as possible to every genre of the world, every part of humanity, because the people that will be left behind are the people that aren't familiar with AI, and that is my concern. So, as far as anything beyond just getting into it, reading about it, understanding it, it's a difficult learning curve. There's no doubt of being able to understand AI. If you go to people, right now, I say to someone, hey, just go on Chat GPT or, or Grok or, Meta. I mean, there's so many of them. They're like, what is that? they still don't know. I mean, we're looking at 85% of the people in the world still don't have a clue. And, that needs to be attached, not leave them behind, because, the speed and the rate of the superiority of these humanoids or this AGI will be exponential. It happened almost overnight. And I think the techies, the top techies know this, and they also realize the learning curve. So there's going to be a big gap to fill here, and I hope that we can bridge over as many people as possible to participate in this change, because it will be all around us. If we don't participate in it, we'll be affected by it potentially negatively.
So it's basically inevitable, and just adaptation and synergy is kind of sounds like the key.
Yeah, I mean, it's yes, we have to adapt. We have to see what's coming at us, and that's why I touched on, Trump and the techies.
Mhm.
Like they're whispering in his ear, and he's listening, and he's going like, "Wow." And we're going to see our government. It is being right now. It is being streamlined
Mhm.
for the next implementation, and that is AI systems to compensate for all of those jobs, whether it's just standard automation, humanoids. I mean, we'll see humanoids by next year this time. I mean, the exponential rise of humanoid technology with AI embedded into it, or AGI, will be just mind blowing for people. I mean, it's mind blowing right now. Every day we
Mm.
can see something new come out and go, wow. And it's not stopping.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. You can't really stop technology. You just either have to adjust to it and manage it in such a way that you can for each person's capacity. Let me pull up another article here. I saw, Steve, on your, uh, just give me 1 second here.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just trying to find the particular, I think this is, there's one here. I saw recently a video online concerning radio wave frequency based technology, which you touched on here, largely perfected by South African native Maxwell Chikumbutso, who perfected a
Yeah.
superior
Kumbuzo.
alternative to
Yeah.
traditional energy sourcing. He even gave credit to the Lord and went to jail for trying to create this and more of a tap into the energy source, because a lot of those American scientists, as you know, were trying to figure out where's it coming from the ground, where's it coming from. Can you talk a little bit about the discovery and how exactly does it work, and what does it entail? How does it
I
benefit
see.
the whole humanity?
Yep. I see it right there. Yeah. That was a lot of buzz hanging around, radio wave frequencies generate energy.
Right.
Chikumbutso, took me a little while to pronounce that
Yeah.
name, is
Yeah.
figuring on making big claims about capturing ambient radio waves, kind of like the ambient that Tesla was trying to capture back then in
Mm-hmm.
early 1900s, 1930, 1920. But decentralized sustainable energy, pretty much the same way, solid state, but it lacks the validation. So I know Van Zyl of Nodus Meta Solutions followed his former partner with some of the IT and refining that technology. And I actually put part of the conversation into my New Fire Energy at Substack. And you could hear him discuss that, he felt when they put orders in and they were working together with Maxwell, that there was a no delivery. And, I'm not shedding any, darkness on it, or shadow, but I do, like to see some third party strong validation. The companies that we cover with optimism um, in our ecosystem or our Substack, we actually put the validations on there. And so in my discussion, he said, we got the IP, we got the better part of it. He's looking for funding, and we had a great conversation. Seems like a very nice guy, South African. But once again, I've seen the videos, a lot of, pizzazz going on there, but I haven't understood the technology well enough to be able to give it a thumbs up. And I just feel like until you get that third party validation sound, then, it would be difficult to, see it actually materialize. But it's exciting. I'm not saying it's not working, but,
Yeah, no, no. I was just curious because you had it. I had seen the video, and then as I said, I showed the audience. You substantiated the article, which people will need to subscribe to to get to see the specifics, but I'm glad you touched on it because it is out there and it's part of the bigger delving of this equation. Let me pull up the next one here, Steve, while we're talking. Let me
Sure.
see
Let's
if I
find
can
that
do
right
this
here.
in real time here.
Yeah, hence
There's
the reason I actually did put the validation and the conversations on my Substack. So I just want to touch on that real quick. I
no,
try to
please go
get to
ahead.
the core of it as best as possible.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I appreciate that. And I know I'm sure our audience will as well. This new article, this next article I'm pulling up on your website, Steve, is there's a really interesting movement, it seems, with new energy, specifically concerning cold fusion, as well as low energy reactors or leaner. What is it? How does it work? And what would be the primary benefits to mankind going forward in your estimation?
Well, I think as we discussed earlier and touched on that topic, once again, that is a low energy nuclear reaction, LENR, and cold fusion was coined the old phrase, but now it's called quite a few things. Brillouin Energy, who has had third party validations from like Francis Tanzella out of SRI, very esteemed government agency that handles projects. And then we had Brillouin Energy calls it the electron capture, which is pretty much the same thing. We're talking about getting energy from the catalyzation of certain elements. And we might say nickel 64, maybe like too specific, over lattice. You put it into a vacuum chamber, and then you infuse hydrogen into it, the H, and then, of course, you get a reaction that allows you to catalyze that energy. And that, is more of a basic process. I've actually put some of the information on how that process works, as well as the patents and explaining the patents, on the Substack. So we realize that it's a viable process. We realize it's been validated. We realize that it now just needs to go from its solid state to commercialization, and it always takes funding, but that is a leap to get major funders to come in because a lot of these hedge funds are invested in energy.
We're well into 2025 and de-dollarization continues. China and BRICS nations are reducing their dependency on the US dollar, and their secret weapon is gold. China's buying gold quietly, underreporting their purchases because they know gold's global value, its ability to withstand economic shocks, as well as immunity to manipulation. But it's not about other nations. Ultimately, it's about you. Gold is your personal hedge against uncertainty, and Noble Gold's investments can help you to secure your financial future with gold. Please visit noblegoldinvestments.com now, and with a qualified account, you'll receive 10 1-ounce silver eagle coins. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, past performance does not guarantee future results, and there is always a risk of investments with any kind.
So what they don't want to do is they don't want to counter what they're already involved with on the old school energy, electrical grids, oil, coal. I mean, energy's everywhere. Everybody's invested into it. But we've had people come to us, they know, like we're doing hydrogen down in natural gas down in South America. And they're like, well, hey, we're putting 250 million into this with another 400 million to follow. Let's have discussions. And I've had a lot of them lately. They want to hedge their bet. They want to know they're not getting into long-term contracts because that's the first thing that's going to happen. 30-year, 15-year, 10-year energy bonds will lose attraction. Competing values will come into play. We're going to see the effects of it in the long run. So as soon as you come out with one product, just one commercial product, which we're at the verge of happening here, I would say within the next 6 to 8 months, viable distribution internationally. And there's about 4 or 5 top companies, and I explained those, which companies they are, where they're at, what they're doing. I take you into the lab, talk to the physicist, and once this hits that next level, takes one product, scientists see it, hey, it's viable, it's real. This is something I can see, feel, and touch. And that's what makes the difference with most people. And of course, the scientific community is always like, voodoo you do until you show me. But then, then you have to run into the old school, peer review editor, firewall that you have to get through. And, a lot of them don't want to deal with that because they want to be able to go through full peer review. Well, in today's world, things are moving so fast, and I discussed that peer review doesn't work anymore. And it really doesn't, because the way technology is moving so quickly, you don't have the time to wait around for a peer review on your new tech that is moving so fast. Same with OpenAI. They're not going to give out peer review to their new breakthrough tech tomorrow. They're just going to put it out. And I'll touch on that for a moment. We went from OpenAI at 3.0. No one knew about it. No one was like, what's that? Then when it hit 3.5, they put an interface into it. The interface was the same thing in 1990 when Windows came out and said, hey, only programmers know about Windows. No one's utilizing it. But then they put a GUI, user interface down left-hand corner for people to get involved in. Boom, years later, there we go, .com boom. And then, of course, the same with OpenAI and the same with this technology. Once people are able to interact with it, feel it, touch it, see it, then everything just goes viral from there. And I feel we're at that point now because we have that information, we have the technology, the scientific backing, third-party validation, where they're preparing, to scale up to full global distribution and manufacturing. And like I said, there's about 4 or 5 companies in the lead. I describe those companies in my Substack and read about them, see what they're doing, and more come out every week. So it's exciting to read up on them. I even had a guy today that said, oh, I can't believe it. I'm able to actually look at a patent that describes, Tesla's, and I said, well, it's not exactly Tesla's technology, even though we use him a lot for that 0 point energy or the, atmospheric withdrawal from electrons.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's really cool to know that we're so close to it and just in relation to the other technologies, how things can just take off.
Absolutely. And as you know, Steve, we talked about this offline. I think it's fairly common knowledge with our audience and probably yours to some respect as well that these technologies have been around for quite a while and been suppressed from us, like you said, by big corporations. And that's now going to be coming to light, and people are going to break free from these generational constraints that we've had in terms of accessing energy, frequency of energy, what that means for not having blackouts or brownouts anymore. You would think that AI right sizing or open AI, as you mentioned, would affect some of these bigger corporations with those attempts to get long-term contracts. It's probably going to correct that a lot as well, especially with our new administration going in and, creating with Doge so much transparency. That's got to extenuate out, I would think, to the energy sector as well. I mean, they just all kind of play hand in hand. So it's going to,
Absolutely. You have the energy sector, which is so heavily needed in the data centers. We call it the world simulation engines. And these are massive data centers like Grok or Elon. And he's moving aggressively towards ASI, and he wants to see this happen sooner than later. But the energy needs are excessive. And that's why they're talking about resurrecting some of the old nuke plants, the dormant ones. And I see that happening with was it OpenAI, Microsoft, just making the efforts in order to bring as much money as energy as fast as they can. Well, we're hoping that this energy technology that I'm helping to support that comes to light fast, because once the first one hits, it will be reverse engineered. There's no doubt. It's not very difficult. We're talking about a technology that requires no outside energy source or just a spark to start it up, because then it loops its energy, and that in itself can be stacked and scaled. Actually they take pre-orders right now on gigawatts. So that will enlighten people in the next 6 to 12 months, especially the scientific community, because once you're able to prove that type of energy, you actually can see that the universe a little clearer, and understand it a little better, because it does deal with energy. As we say, some people might not call it the vacuum of space, but it's actually just, it's like taking an electron or an anti-electron and a positron as they come in and out of space or the vacuum of space, that it actually creates a byproduct if you actually are able to, like with the Schwinger effect a few years ago, came out and replicated that effect of the waves into particles, and then of course annihilating each other. And that, of course, being able to duplicate that just helps prove, the scientific approach with LENR, and of course the Casimir effect, and there's many other ones, but those are utilized with these physicists, and even the Casimir effect, believe it or not, on the micro scale, with that type of energy reaction is used in medical equipment, because when you get so small to that micro scale, and you have to understand how that energy works, they utilize the Casimir effect in itself. But I won't get too detailed or too technical on it, but just wanted to touch on that.
no, I appreciate that. I think it's good that we can explore the space there. And so many, patents and products. We could just, as an example, my audience knows this well, but med beds and how these technologies play a part in that, and being able to aid people in healing and age regeneration and de-aging and all that. We're really going into exciting and brave new territory in these different respects, as you're aware. Um,
Yes.
for the brevity of time, and again, I always want to respect your time, Steve, like everyone else, especially owner of a company. You and I discussed this in our initial briefing, and I saved it for the end because it's a subject that is well healed in our channel, as you know. Much to discuss in our channel revolves around the global reset and its many mechanisms, amongst which include foreign currencies, exotic bonds, precious metals, and certain cryptos, all revaluing to their true worth based on the precious metal assets, as well as assets in the ground of each of these countries' respective areas throughout the world. And in some cases, like Zimbabwe or El Salvador, they have, it's been thought they have nuclear fission and other naturally occurring elements that they can use to actually power up their respective economy. Likewise, you had your own thoughts on the reset and the ultimate removal for the need for traditional monetary sources, as well as the ability to empower everyone financially through the world with these new and untapped energy resources. So, can you talk a little bit about that and what you see for the short and the long-term futures for monies? How will it be distributed? How will it be treated and accessed by said public?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely looking at a global reset. I mean, we cannot not look at it. I mean, you're talking about what, $37 trillion in debt, 100 trillion around the world. I mean, we have to shift from fiat currencies, monetary systems. I mean, this global reset, which I think is imminent, is going to reshape, our economic reality, and that's key. Like you said, currencies, exotic bonds, precious metals, and even cryptocurrencies are being revalued based upon their true worth by in-ground grounding intangible assets, like, once again, precious metals, natural resources. I mean, hence the reason that, land grab has happened. We've seen, countries, our administration trying to grab land, large land. Even Bill Gates, by the way, is the largest private land owner in the United States and has accumulated so much over the last decade. So the convergence, of, like, AI, breakthrough technologies, which are setting the stage for a radical new financial system, fractionalizing assets. And there's no doubt that the amount of debt in this world, which, once again, 100 trillion worldwide debt, I mean, it's unstable. It has to change. And we're monetizing our own debt. We're monetizing our own debt. Back in 2006, we created synthetic contracts getting up to as high as $48 to the dollar before it collapsed. I mean, we're about there now. So especially with the United States, it's again, it's 37 trillion and remonetizing its debt. A reset has to happen. It's needed. But I think it's going to be in the face of in-ground assets, land, fractionalizing like Bitcoin businesses, tokenizing. And I feel land is the last gold rush, to a new digital reset. Of course, buildings, businesses, and that will be part of the fractionalization. But in the short term, these technologies, they remove that old school financial system through efficiency, which we talked about with Elon. Seeing capital shifts from outdated fiat currencies to emerging tech-driven models. I mean, traditionally we knew fiats, were everything, but they're fading. Decentralized systems is where wealth is going to be defined.
Mm.
And the abundance of fractionalized assets is going to be the new front running. So what I'm saying is redefining what wealth means and empowering people globally by democratizing financial access, through this new reset, I think is key. And I feel it happening already.
Hmm.
We do know that banks have very little, say in what happens anymore. I mean, in my 20 years on Wall Street, banks were everything. We reinforced them, and then all of a sudden, right back where we were before. But we've got a bigger cushion. Well, at least we had until the 37 trillion came in. We don't have that. So, as far as Elon and Donald doing what they do, with these breakthroughs in AI coming into the government and the breakthrough in energy right around the corner as far as commercialization, And then the
Mhm.
speed of what's happening, this quantum leap into this new world, will change the way that we utilize commerce, the buying and selling of goods and services, as well as, valuing our assets. No more are we going to value them based on inefficiency, but efficiency. And that's what ultimately Elon's doing. It may be a little too fast for people to really grasp. And I think if they realize that, what's happening here, and I'm neither side on this. I mean, I'm kind of
Mhm.
middle ground going like, whoa, we're going too fast. Oh, wait a minute, we got to go fast. Wait a minute, we got to, no, wait about the people here. We've got to make sure they're taken care of. But wait a
Mm.
minute, if we don't do that, then, this other country is going to be 20 years ahead of us and maybe they're going to own us. So it's a very difficult balance that's happening right now between AGI to ASI
Mhm.
and, the way people live their lives because they're not, involved enough to really capture the essence of what's happening in our world. And with all these, fundamental changes, I think it's time to really just put it out there to everyone in the United States, spend $1 billion to send everybody this update on where we're at and where we're going. I mean, very few people, even when it's hard for me to have discussions with people when I talk about, the Doge. The first thing they say is, "Oh, everything seems to be so simple to them as far as what direction they want to take," and they're definitely enthralled in that direction where you need to explain to them why the balances of these things are happening. And once again, I'm not taking either side. I'm, in middle ground. On one side, I want it to happen very fast. On the other side, I want everybody to come over that bridge. I want them to reinforce that bridge and bring them over slowly. But can we do that? Is another country going to get the AGI? Because once again, once you get to AGI, it's only a matter of months between you reach ASI. And ASI gives the resolution to all our formulas. I mean, it gives us everything. And that is also including military. That's why
Mhm.
I expressed about, you know, but this reset, to get back to your question or
Mhm.
discussion, this reset will be the biggest biggest move in money reset we've ever seen. I mean, it's going to be massive. And we're
Yep.
talking about everything that's fiat out there will automatically become a digitized asset. It'll become a fractionalized asset. It has to be because that's why Elon is in the government to make everything 100% transparent. Whether he's done something wrong here or whether he's done something right here, AI is a total different, a bigger elephant in the room. People have to realize this because we can then concentrate and focus on what needs to be done instead of everybody skirmishing, or in this
Mm.
case, skirmishing for land, for assets, because the leaders of the countries are being told, you gotta go grab that land, you better go get those resources, because that's all you hear right now. Look how many resources are here in Greenland. Look how many resources in east of Ukraine. Look at that's what it is. Get
Mm.
those resources because as we move forward into this, that reset, we become more visible to everyone. And this is just my opinion.
No, I appreciate it. That's why I asked. And I like what you said about, not because I asked you to say, you said of your own volition, when we both here and when we talked offline about the importance of this global reset and all the positive implications and offshoots that my audience well knows. Whenever I talk about this process with somebody new, if I'm just talking about from the technological side, I always try to explain to them it's like if you do Zelle or PayPal or Venmo, but eliminate the bank and just go peer to peer banking. I think that's where we're headed from a technology standpoint, right? Backed in real gold. And you could even go to a bank and get physical gold or do it digitally through XRP or any other crypto that you desire. You'll have options, you'll have scalability and versatility, and the technological change will afford that. It also opens up transparency. The money laundering, the pedophilia, and all that kind of stuff gets ixnayed because everything's out there in the open. And that's, I think, one of the positive aspects. Also, you touched on something that's really important, Steve, is we've been teaching our audience, as I've told you before, to become your own central bank. And one of the best ways we believe to do that, apart from the mechanisms we discussed, it's all leading to what you said. It will give people the chance to buy land and large parcels of it, grow their own food. Chances are a lot of the land that's in the vast great country we're blessed to be in has oil and natural gas and other related resources, wildlife, a water source, what have you. And that really is your ability to be self-sustaining, get off of the bigger
Grid.
beast system, but still utilizing elements of it in the transition or the transitory process. Because like you said, you got to build a bridge. And so we think this is one of the best ways to achieve that. And I think what you're talking about plays a very nice and complementary role in getting there. So thank you for explaining that and giving your take on it. And as we close out today, Steve, what we always do, we always ask our guest members, where can people find your work? Last words that you have for the audience. And also, if somebody was interested in investing, I don't know, in micro shares or however it works, how would they do that?
Well, each of these companies, and most of them, including our private equity fund, is accreditation only. We keep it that way because we are, SEC regulated under the Form 50D, Form 504D, Schedule C, and we try to, we try to limit the learning curve on the sophistication side on that end. But yes, we do support a lot of these companies in the cutting edge energy technologies. Now, if you do go to my newfireenergy.substack.com, it is it is an ecosystem part of our social system. Our social system has tens of millions, maybe 50 million views, and literally 300,000 followers. And our objective is to spread the word about the energy technology. I'm not trying to avoid the investment side of it and how people get involved. Usually, if you're interested, you can reach out to us at newfireenergy.com, or you can just go to, Substack, newfireenergy.substack, and read about these companies and reach out to them. I actually do put some information out there, and of course, with my disclaimer at the bottom, because we're not trying to sell stock. We do have a private equity fund. We do allow people to come into the fund as accredited investors. We're not searching for money. We have some, people that are really interested in what's going on right now, to a point where, we're more than happy to entertain people of that, sophistication or accreditation. And of course, that's on our website as well. But, so we're just interested more so with our esteemed board. We have some pretty qualified people on there, MIT physicist, and advisory board. And our objective is really just to get the word out there to the world and let them know that you can get energy, close to pennies or free, abundant energy. And, that explains how that happens, because people go, how's it free? When you buy the product, well, in consideration, it's negligible, the amount of savings that you have. So that's a whole different story. But yes, you can get a hold of me at newfireenergy.com, or you can go to, see what's going on, with all of these companies, with this technology, how we just, covered, a gamut of my posts. And perhaps that will enlighten you to, see further into it. But, I appreciate you bringing me on. We want to spread the word. We need what's been, ours from the beginning. That is free, clean, abundant energy, and minus the negligible cost of the product over time. And then we'll see a world change even faster, and we believe it's happening now. And you'll see that, in my posts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a subject that's so important and unavoidable. And if we can get ahead of it, to your point, with podcasts like this, it just behooves us to do that, and our audience deserves to get that level of transparency, in your audience for that matter too. So it's a win-win
Sure.
in the end. So Steve Previch, CEO of New Fire Energy, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the expertise of information. We appreciate it. And we look forward to having you again in the near future.
Thank you, John. All my pleasure. I appreciate it. Good day.
Take care.